Hello and welcome to the Car Care channel. In today's video, I want to talk to you about some Toyota models and Lexus models that I would avoid buying in 2025. Folks, the car market is still up and down, and folks are relying on used cars to save from buying the overinflated prices of new cars. But there are some models that I see in the shop that are just flat out disasters. The entire model is a disaster. And then there are some trims within really good models that are just not a good idea to buy used. In today's video, we're going to go over some of these and more right after this. The Lexus IS250. I have never gotten more negative comments from viewers about the IS250 than when I said it is the worst, one of the top worst Lexus models to buy. And I understand why they are upset. Let's talk about it. I have never seen a model that has a tendency of falling apart completely than the IS250. Buy the IS350, it's exactly the same car. It's in great shape. IS250, I rarely see a nice one. Here's the problem with the IS250. The car itself is good. The engine, on the other hand, different story. 4GR FSE. It's direct injected only, and it loves to build carbon and cause all kinds of issues. But that's not all. That engine, for some reason, loves to leak oil from everywhere. Front timing cover, valve covers, lower upper oil pan, it just never stops. And the problem is, it's such a small car, such a compact, complicated engine. Everything you want to do with the big leaks, engine's got to come out at a monumental task in such a small car and such a just a ridiculous expense. Not because we're overcharging, but because there's a lot to do to pull that engine out of that car. And then when that's all sorted, the exhaust loves to fall apart from rust, and then the suspension, and then the CV axles, and then it just seems like it's a continuous, you're always doing something to your IS250. And if you are one of those folks that have a lot of miles on an IS250 and it runs perfectly fine, exactly the point. Are you going to sell it anytime soon? I find very few good examples of IS250s that are up for sales. Because if they are a good example, folks usually don't sell them. Because actually it's a nice car to drive, but very hard to come by that in good example for sale. Be very careful with the IS250s. You'll see them usually lower priced than the IS350, especially the older ones that they're all-wheel drive. Avoid them at all costs. Be very careful buying a used IS250. Avoid buying cars with the 2AZ FE engine without doing your due diligence. See, the 2AZ engine is actually a really good engine. It's used in many, many models across the Toyota lineup. But for some reason, around 2006, 2007, they decided to use low-tension piston rings. And that started a very big problem with oil consumption. I mean, unbelievable. Then they issued a campaign that fixed many of them. But how do you know, is this one fixed or not? It's not as simple finding out. You got to really look. So don't go buying a 2AZ FE without knowing, is it been fixed by the campaign? Because the ones that got fixed, it's actually a very good engine, and now we don't have that problem. Rebuilding that engine is a very costly proposition. You could, on day one, actually it's not day one, it's going to be maybe month one, when you put 1,000 miles on it and it goes through 2-3 quarts of oil, you're going to realize very quickly you're about to spend possibly double what you paid for this older, hopefully reliable car that you just bought with the 2AZ. Be very careful with 2AZ. Find one that the campaign's been done or the engine's been updated with updated parts. That's actually a very good engine, so this could go both ways. Be careful with this one. As the title said, folks, the victims of the 10,000-mile oil change. I mean, it is unbelievable that we have to total 2 or 3 cars sometimes every week, every 2 weeks, because of this problem. The 2AR FE engine, possibly one of the best engines Toyota made, but then they destroyed it with a 10,000-mile oil change interval that folks follow blindly. Be very careful in today's world buying a 2AR FE, because here's how this whole thing started. The first victim of the 10,000-mile oil change was a 2009 to 2012 Toyota RAV4. Then the 2010 to 2011 Toyota Camry. I mean, these two models, I would seriously have second thoughts about buying a four-cylinder model of these with a 2AR, because these were the first ones. These were the ones that got hit the most with every single common problem. First, it burns oil at a rapid rate, because folks did the 10,000 mile oil change. And then the VVTi gear starts rattling. And then because it runs low on oil and nobody checks their oil anymore, the balance shaft goes, and then the chain guide breaks, and then the chain goes, and it just, you buy the car used, yes, I bought a Toyota, it's a great car, and then it runs out of oil, and all this problem just totals the car twice over. That's the first problem. And the new problem that I want to bring to your attention here is 2012 to 2017 Camry, which I, in a previous video, told you this is one of the best cars to buy, especially the 15 and 17. And then the RAV4, 13 to 18. I told you 16, 18 were the best models to buy. They are slowly becoming the victim of the 10,000 mile oil change, and they are burning oil at a rapid rate. And unfortunately, the 2ARFE, once it starts burning oil because of the contamination of the oil changes, there's no repairing that block. You got to put a short block. Now you just totaled your car. Don't go buying a used 2ARFE without closely watching that oil change interval. If you don't have a clear service history that oil changes have been done at least every 5,000 miles, 6 months, walk away. Do yourself a favor, because those that did the oil changes on time rarely have issues. This engine is a great engine that lasts a very long time, but unfortunately it fell victim to this 10,000 mile nonsense. I mean, it is such a vague recommendations, and if you really read into it, 90% of folks don't qualify for it. Some will, and it'll be okay. Majority won't. Be careful, folks. Okay, folks, before you start throwing things at me, let's have a talk, because some of you will, and I am with you. Let's talk. The 5th generation 4Runner is probably one of the best 4Runners ever made. That's the best generation, period. The end. Except one tiny little detail that you actually need to know about before you go just pay whatever they are asking for to get this gem. The limited model. There is one Achilles heels that is just a conversation I dread having with owners of limited trim 4Runner. The X-Reus suspension. It is this horrendous idea that Toyota decided to do. It's such a bad engineering on that system. So the suspension is crossed. The left front shock is connected to the right rear shock, and the other two together, and they have a center shock. That's perfectly fine. They love to leak on the 5th generation 4Runner. I mean, nothing is perfect. I get it. Shock leaks, you replace it and move on with your life. But here's the problem. Once it leaks fluid, you have no way of adding fluid to the system. That's the bad engineering part. So if you go replace the one shock, you're going to have more noise than you started with, because now the fluid is low in the system because it leaked from one shock. You have to replace the entire cross. And if both front shocks are leaking, you're looking at a north of $4,500 just to do shocks. That's the problem. I mean, and they fail so low miles. I don't get it. You're going to distinctly see them. They are red shocks. You see red shocks on a 4Runner? Do you have $4,500 sitting around, or do you know what you're getting yourself into? You need to know that. Now, here's a solution for that. It's not you're stuck with this. You can convert the limited trim 4Runner to non-X-Reus shocks using original parts from like an SR5. You can do that. It'll ride, at least to me, exactly the same. But that's still a giant cost. And here's the interesting thing about the limited trim 4Runner. I feel like they made the 4Runner initially in the SR5 trim or the TRD off-road whatnot. Then they kind of modified it to the limited, because the springs on the limited are different than all other trims, because the limited trim has huge wheels. I believe they're 20-inch wheels, if memory serves right. In order to accommodate this and not have the truck sit super high, because it's a luxury 4Runner, they use shorter springs. So when you go do a conversion, you're only changing the shock and the mount in the front using the same spring, and you are changing the rear shock only. to convert it to non-extraneous, and please remove all the extraneous stuff because you're just carrying that extra weight. Because if you use springs from an SR5, the truck will sit significantly higher. Some folks will take it as a lift kit. Your gas mileage will really suffer, and it'll never sit right. It'll always be like high in one side, low in the front, high. It just never sits right. Keep the same springs, just change the shocks and the mounts in the front. But if you're going to buy one and thinking this is the best thing in the planet, I'm buying the limited one, just be careful, because this thing is coming up and the conversion might have to happen very soon in its life, and it's still expensive. Usually regular SR5s, you might be well over 100,000 miles before you even have to think about shocks. With the X3s and the limited trim, that might happen a lot sooner. So be advised. Otherwise, the 4Runner 5th generation, now that you can throw more stuff at me, great vehicle to buy if you buy the right one, of course. And before you put the sticks down that you are throwing at me, pick them back up, because you're going to throw more at me. Toyota V8 UR series engine. Great engine if you know what you're getting into, if you buy the right one. I did a video which sparked a lot of talk. Some of it was not nice talk. That's okay. Truth sometimes hurts. Head gaskets issues with the UR series engines. I did a lot of investigation and really dug deep to understand the problem, because there's a pattern with the problem with head gaskets with V8s UR series. It's only 07 to 13. I've never seen a 14 and up. Some folks will say, well, these are newer. Not really, because I see so many 13s, but not at the single 14. That's interesting. So I actually dug into that. They did a change in the head gasket. Part number and production dates fall right around the end of 13. Something changed for the 14 and up UR series engine that I have not seen a single 14 and up head gasket fails. Always 07 to 13 on the dot. So if you're going to buy one of these UR engines, 07 to 13, I would want to see coolant replaced every 50,000 miles, 5 years. Otherwise, I'd go with the 14 and up. I'm going to flat out say it. And the V8 has a few more gremlins hiding behind it that you need to know about. One of them is the chain tensioner that rattles. Now, scientifically, that chain rattling around could break a guide, but I've actually never seen one actually fail because of the rattling tensioner. So, do you need to fix it right away? Technically, yes, but I have not seen one completely fail because of that. So, and a lot of them do, and folks don't notice them. The other thing is the heat, commonly referred to as the coolant valley plate leak, or more correct term is the heat exchanger leaking coolant. This is your sure road to a head gasket failure, especially on the older ones. If you're going to go buy a V8 UR, look, they're great engines if you buy the right ones. You gotta check it. Do yourself a favor, please. Get it checked. If you are a DIYer and you want to check your own car, know what you are checking. I'll leave another video here where we addressed every single common problem with the UR series engine in one go. You need to check all this stuff when you're buying it. If you see some of it, negotiate the price and get it fixed. If you're leaking coolant, you need to add coolant until you fix it. You gotta check this stuff, folks, because some of the repair costs of that V8 are astronomical. And if you buy one of the head gasket that fails, they love to warp the block. There's nothing you can do about the block. That's the problem with these. The cost to replace a block on a UR series engine is astronomical. Way, just beyond totaling the car. Let's put it this way. And you want to guess the price of a brand new long block built for a UR? It is in excess of $30,000. So you might want to spend an hour or two researching or looking around that V8 before you find yourself in that horrendous situation. Used examples are very scarce for some reason, the ones with good warranty. Be very careful with a V8 when you're buying a used one. Buy the right one though and take care of it. It's a good motor. It's going to last for a long time. But just make sure you know what you're buying before you buy it. There is a single year of Toyota Highlander and Toyota Sienna that is slowly becoming a disaster year. Flat out. There's no other way to say it. 2017 was a horrible year for a Highlander and a Sienna. Here's what happens with these. First, the transmission loves to wind itself to an early grave. It is just such a big problem with these. The harsh engagement, the codes, the whining, and then the complete failure of a transmission. Yes, Toyota does have extended coverage for this, but you could just go one more year and we're good. But even that one more year is very important that you know one thing. 2017 are all affected. Early 2018s or 2018 models made in 2017. So how about we play it safe and we go with a later 2018 or better yet a 19, because whatever small price difference will be for that one more year of a used car will be worth every penny. And that's not where it ends with the 17 Highlander and Sienna. The 2G RFKS, good engine, loves to leak. And whatever you want to do to it, gotta come out of the car. It seems like 2017 and early 18, they love to leak from everywhere. Rear main seal, the front timing cover, cam towers, and all of these, gotta pull the engine out. Avoid this one year, folks. Do yourself a favor. Just avoid this one year. I mean, the 19 it's a great car otherwise, but the engine and transmission in this one year, disaster. Slowly becoming a disaster, seriously. There is no such thing as cheap luxury, folks. There's just no such thing. Please. LS460s, we've talked about this so much, I'm just going to keep it very brief. LS460s significantly got better after 2013. But the early ones, some of them were so bad. And this is the problem. Folks usually neglect them, never repair anything, and then they get so bad that they just sell them for whatever price, and then you are shopping for a cheap car, and you see this, it's the nicest car. It's a very nice car. Looks-wise, inside and everything. But you buy it today, and a month later, you're at a shop, and you will total that car 2 or 3 times over what you paid for it easily. And then as soon as you're done repairing it, something else will go, and it will just keep going. Be very careful from cheap LS460s, specifically 2007 and 2008, if they have been neglected and you bought it for cheap. Just remember, there is no cheap luxury. LS460s have a special way of bankrupting their owners when they buy the wrong ones. I mean, it's unbelievable how things, one thing after another, one thing after another, one thing after another, and it just never ends. You could have just, at that point, bought a nice one with low miles that is a 13 and up, and we don't have as much problems. But still, they are expensive cars to repair. But if you pay a decent price for a nice one, you're going to have a smaller chance of that happening time after time. Please, there's no such thing as cheap luxury. Avoid the cheap luxury cars. There is one year in the Toyota Tacoma that still gives me nightmares till today. Every time I see one, my blood pressure just goes to the next step. 2016 Toyota Tacoma. You know, folks are really upset about the new Tacoma and with the problems that they're having with transmission and whatnot. I think they're doing pretty good compared to the 16 Tacoma. Nobody talks about that. Because the 16 Tacoma, I'd like you to pretend like the generation of Tacomas started from 18 and up. Even the 17s still had some issues, but the 16 Tacoma, first, they love to leak oil and coolant. And then the cylinder head has issues. And then the vibration. You will keep doing things to stop it from vibrating, and it'll never stop. It'll just keep going. And then the seat's uncomfortable. And then just do me a favor, please. Please. Don't buy a 16 Tacoma if you're shopping for a used truck today. You will see them. They'll be cheaper than the rest. But it just never ends with the 16 Tacoma. There'll always be something or another. And some will disagree. They will have 16 Tacomas. And I'm very happy that you are having good success with it. But if you're buying one today used, those folks that have zero issues with the 16 Tacoma, they probably still have it. They're not selling it. So you're not going to find the ones that don't have problems. You're going to find the ones that drove the owner out of the driver's seat. Let's shake hands on this one. If you're going to buy a Tacoma, skip the 16. If you really want to play it safe, skip the 17, 18 and up. Things got much better. But the 16 Tacoma, you can have issues. It's just how it is, unfortunately. please don't throw things at me. And actually, you shouldn't throw things at me for this one, because I own one of these cars. So we're now talking amongst family. The Lexus GX, possibly one of the best trucks ever in the Lexus lineup. Super biased because I own one, but Jose also owns one, who's filming me here. But there is one thing I'd like you to never do when going to buy a Lexus GX. Never, ever buy a Lexus GX that had a KDSS light on. Ever. Because there are many reasons why that light would come on, but 10 times out of 10, it will be a leak and the fluid is low. And here's how that snowballs into a disaster. Before we even start, you bought this great truck, it's just going to bankrupt you from day one. The leaks. Here's how it snowballs from that. If the cylinders, there's 2 cylinders, front and back. If one of them is leaking, we just spent a small fortune to replace it because you can't repair them. And here's where this snowballs. You replace the front one. You go try to break the bleeders. They're seized and the block breaks. Now there's a second fortune you have to spend. Whatever you do, do not buy a Lexus GX that was a great deal, but just has that little light, KDSS light on. Don't buy it. They all the GX 460s, we're talking about the GX 460 here, all of them have KDSS. Don't buy one with a KDSS light on, because it will be such an expensive repair. It'll take anything good out of this ownership experience and throw it out the window. Please don't do that. And then when you're going to buy a GX 460, please check the cylinders for leaks. Any little leak, you either get a great deal compensating for this giant expense that's coming up, or just walk away. There are plenty out there. Buy a good one. Don't buy one with a leaky KDSS, because when you find out the prices of the cylinders, you're not going to have a good day. Please don't do that to yourself. Please. Now you can throw stuff at me. Definitely. Land Cruisers. Not the new ones. The old ones. Like that beautiful 80 series behind me. These are, let's reiterate one thing very important. 80 series Land Cruisers and older, even at some borderline 100 series. These are becoming collector cars, folks, and Toyota knows that. Prices for parts for these cars to fix them properly, not use some aftermarket this and that, are astronomical. Daily driving an 80 series Land Cruiser is a very bad idea in 2025. If you're buying one with the intention of daily driving it, please reconsider. Because you're going to pay so much for this nice example, and then it's going to slowly bankrupt you. Folks, they're old cars. And the biggest problem is they come to a point where they're so old, they need so much done to them, and prices are astronomical. If you're going to buy an 80 series, 60 series, 40 series, all the series, you need to know that the front knuckle rebuild with proper parts, with Burfield joints, which are notorious to fail on these, could be close to $5,000. Now, some of the older techs will remember that it didn't cost this much. Exactly. I don't know what happened to the Burfield joints, but their prices are astronomical. They were not like that, but all of a sudden they just is. Be careful. If you plan to daily drive an old Land Cruiser, I'm just going to flat out tell you right now, I would like you to reconsider. These are collector cars, folks. You can't, they're not, you hear about them, they're super reliable, super well made, and they are. But they're also super old. Things are gonna go. Nothing lasts forever. And when they go, things are expensive to fix them, because we are in 2025. We are not in 1991. That's the problem. Be careful. And here's a last piece of advice on Land Cruisers, older ones. You need to do some stuff yourself. You can't just pay a shop to do everything, because it'll never end. Certain things you gotta do yourself. This is an enthusiast collector car. Not a good daily driver, because they're simply too old. Not a good car to just hand to a shop and have them do everything, because things are gonna get out of control with the repairs. Just thought I'd mention this. Folks, before we wrap up this video, apologies if I offended everyone. The truth sometimes hurts, and that's God honest truth. But these are the worst car lists or trims or things you need to know about certain Toyotas that I see folks just faces drop when you tell them the news. But I bought a Toyota, but I bought a Lexus. But you didn't buy the right one. You didn't do your due diligence. You didn't inspect it properly. That's the problem. Folks, I make YouTube videos for you all to know the things that I have learned over a very long career. And I have no intention behind it at all, but for you to gain something, because I hope you turn around and do the same thing, and that comes back to me and we all help each other. Do your due diligence, research. You watch this video, you've decided, watch more, because there's many out there that will teach you things to watch for when buying a car. I don't want to give bad news at the shop, but unfortunately, I do on a daily basis. And if I can contribute something small to avoid that situation and that hardship for somebody, I will gladly do it every single day. Folks, I hope this video was helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some other videos. Until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.